Hey YouTube, compassion won't keep the sky from falling, but common sense might. Hey, welcome back for a little weekend philosophy. It is a rather dreary and damp Saturday morning. I think you can probably tell that just looking around me here. But a nice morning nonetheless to sit outside in long sleeve shirt for one of the first times this year and have just a little bit of coffee. For those of you curious, I'm smoking a little Dunhill early morning pipe in my Wackanelli pipe, which if you don't know what that is, you'll have to go back and watch the last video. But just been doing a lot of thinking over the last couple of weeks about how emotion-driven decisions are going to end up ruining us all. And I'm talking about both on a micro and macro level. Emotions are great. That's what gets us up in the morning. We need emotion in our lives to get us excited about life and to, just be good people, generally speaking. But the downside of emotions, of course, is things like fear. There's the fight or flight, which is, again, not always a bad thing. But I think anymore, we have forgotten problem solving and critical thinking, and we spend entirely too much time making decisions based on things like compassion and fear. And, I just wonder what happened to critical thinking and problem solving skills. And I realize I'm kind of preaching to the choir here. I think based on most of the people I follow within the YTPC, generally speaking, us pipe smokers are pretty level-headed dudes, and women for that matter. But we tend to be very thoughtful, stoic in some cases. I'm definitely leaning more towards the stoic direction, if you hadn't figured that mess out. But, I go back to 4th grade for me. We had in my school, as part of our science track, a course called Critical Thinking. And the whole year was spent doing problem solving, pattern recognition, elementary logic, logic puzzles, and I think that helped shape myself and my classmates and our ability to make decisions. And this is not, we were not some sort of advanced educational facility. We were a very small public school. But we were taught critical thinking and problem solving at a very early age. And, for some of us, it's just kind of innate to who we are. And that's definitely the case with me. I've always been a problem solver. Some would refer to me as a cold-hearted bastard because I don't show a lot of emotion. I try not to let emotion make a lot of decisions for me, but sometimes, that just happens. I think when we stop thinking and start feeling is when we start making decisions without realizing it. And anyway, back to, 4th grade, that was an important period, I think, for myself and my classmates and my schoolmates to go through a course like that. Fast forward to college, we had, in our philosophy and religion track, we had a elementary logic course. And I signed up for that for absolutely no reason. That was not required for me in my schooling, but it was something that I really wanted to do because I just thought, logic is a very interesting thing to me. Turning word-based arguments into equations is like right in my wheelhouse, which just shows you what kind of next-level dork I really am. But the interesting thing about this class is that it was required for philosophy and religion majors, obviously, nursing majors, and journalism majors. And, I didn't quite understand it at the time, but as the years roll by, I look back and I go, oh my gosh, that was one of the most brilliant things to include in a curriculum for journalists and for nurses. Nurses obviously, okay, the birds are out to get me. This is the second video where I've been buzzed. Anyway, nurses need problem-solving skills. They are presented with a set of circumstances, and not always is the patient able to relay symptoms and things like that. So for them to be able to deduce from those symptoms what the likely causes are is very important. Well, journalists as well should be able to determine fact from fiction and present a non-biased narrative. Whatever happened to that, I'll never know, but I've got some ideas. Anyway, that was stricken from the curriculums of those other majors, the journalists and the nursing, because it was just too darn hard. The kids could not pass logic. And, again, I was fascinated by that because I breezed through it, but I'm very analytical, so I can understand why it would have been easier for me. But to remove that from those two majors puzzled me. But I think it shows, even in the 90s, we were starting to see this compassion taking over education. You no longer had to do the work to make the grade, you just had to make the effort to make the grade. And, colleges are a monetary-based, driven business, much like everything else is. So if your courses are too hard and the kids quit and you get a bad reputation, your enrollment goes down, so on and so forth. So there is a business decision aspect to course curriculums and all of that. But it stopped being about the classroom and about the work. And I think, you can see that all through the school systems, whether it's collegiate, whether it's high school, whether it's elementary. And I think we need to figure out a way to get back to that problem-solving area that teaches kids to critically think and not critically feel. Now, a couple of things that, have driven me down this road, or at least to reiterate these things. Obviously the shooting in Las Vegas, and I'm not going to make this political. I'm only going to mention that within hours of the shooting, the media and politicians were already saying, gun control, we need gun control, we need gun control. I understand that. I absolutely do. I am a Second Amendment person, but I think common sense gun laws make sense. Now I just need to hear one. And again, I'm not going to make this political, but the knee-jerk reaction is to inject emotion into it. And there's a good reason for that. Emotion drives ratings. That's what keeps people watching the television. That's how politicians get elected, is by playing on emotions. If the news stuck to straight up news and logic, nobody would watch, because that's not interesting. What's interesting is, sadly, when a host, when a journalist starts to inject emotion and punch you right there in the feels. That drives ratings, that keeps people watching, that keeps advertisers buying. But it does a disservice to everyone who consumes it. Because we start to feel and we stop thinking. If you've watched my Media Madness video, you already know that I prefer to read my news versus watch it. Because one, it tends to paint a much more rounded picture of the scenario, even in an op-ed. Your opinion pieces tend to paint a bigger, broader picture because they've got unlimited space to do so. Television is based on 2 and 3 minute segments because our attention span sucks. So they have to cram as much stuff into that, and oftentimes there's details left out. And oftentimes that's on purpose to drive a specific emotion. So I try to read my news so that I don't get caught up in the emotional aspect of it. And that allows my brain then to process things critically versus emotionally. And, so that takes you back to the Las Vegas thing. I understand where people are coming from a feelings aspect, but you can't legislate behavior. It just doesn't work that way. So, it's great to get all excited and upset that we're going to change the world for the better, but rarely in an emotional outburst do we make the right decisions. And I think you can probably all think back to a point in your life where you got angry or you got scared and you did something right away without really thinking, and it was not the right thing to do. Maybe it was yelling at a spouse or a significant other when all you had to do was walk away for a little bit. Now the second one, and you can tell it's damp because I'm having a heck of a time keeping my pipe lit. The second thing that got me thinking about logic and emotion this week was the doggone Rick and Morty mess. And hopefully there's a lot of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, because this is a doggone train wreck. Rick and Morty is an adult-style cartoon that kids watch too, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's a very witty and smart style comedy cartoon, and I've enjoyed the one episode that I've watched. But it's kind of a cult favorite right now. And one of the things that they do repeatedly in this show is mention the Szechuan sauce that McDonald's had back in the early 90s, I believe, to help promote the movie Mulan, which was a Disney movie. So this Szechuan sauce was a chicken nugget sauce that they used to promote it. Well, Rick and Morty keep bringing this up in their goofy cartoon, and so McDonald's, their PR team says, hey, we got a thing here. We can sell a boatload of McNuggets if we do the Szechuan sauce again. So they did a one-day promotion for Szechuan sauce. And fans came out by the tens of thousands, and McDonald's simply was not prepared. It was a stroke of genius by the marketing team that was so poorly executed that some stores, large market stores, only got 50 packets of the Szechuan sauce. Some smaller stores got 0. And customers, teens and young 20s, showing up in droves only to find out there's no Szechuan sauce. Well, golly, kids, guess what? You can't always get what you want. I think there was a song about this era of instant gratification and the way that we have reared our children in this notion that they can have anything they want anytime they want is not grounded in reality. Emotion. We want to be our kid's best friend. Well, you can't. You have to be a disciplinarian. You have to make rational decisions. You have to be a thoughtful person, and you have to watch for their feelings. But you can't make these emotion-based decisions and allow your kids to believe that's how life is. Because life is a damn hard place to be sometimes. And if you aren't prepared for it, and if you don't have critical thinking and logic in your brain, you're going to find out that you're maybe not prepared for the world ahead. Sorry, I keep looking. Somebody just parked across the street, and I don't know if they're coming here or not. Anyway, I don't want this to be a diatribe about parenting. I don't want this to be a political thing, but I do want it to be something where we take a serious look at the decisions we make or the decisions we're about to make, and whether or not those decisions have our best interests in heart, or whether or not that's just an opportunity, a way for us to make a snap decision based on emotion that oftentimes takes us down the wrong path. And it's great to have compassion. It's great to be a charitable person. Those are feelings that are very beneficial to the world around. But when we start using compassion, when we start using fear to make broader-based legislative decisions and behavioral decisions, we're going in the wrong direction. And, you can look at our court system and see the very same thing, where emotion-based decisions from the bench are now becoming part of the mainstream versus logic-based decisions. And, emotion-based decisions are nice and colorful. There's shades of gray, there's pinks, there's purples, there's oranges. Law, generally speaking, just needs to be black and white. When you start blurring the lines because of compassion, or because you feel for the victim or feel for the perpetrator even, then all of a sudden we start making different decisions than if we were to just look at things from a black and white perspective. And I know there's going to be people out there that disagree with what I'm saying, and that's fine, but I will ask you guys, just for fun, there we go again, just for fun, spend a day, just one day, thinking about every decision you make, and thinking about whether that's an emotion-based decision or a logic-based critical thinking decision, and then think about the two different outcomes. You know, hopefully they line up in some cases. You know, hopefully the person that you marry or that you are with is also, you know, was logically the right choice and also emotionally the right choice. You know, that's what we're all looking for in life, is where those two intersect. But they don't always make sense together. So I think if we take the time to make the logic, critical thinking based decision, you're going to find the outcome is more beneficial to you in the end than making the emotion based decision. That's some deep stuff for a Saturday morning. Anyway, I hope you guys all have a beverage in front of you. Nice pipe if you smoke one. Also going to let you know, I set up a Bearded Bristol Facebook page for those of you on that platform. I have a lot of different interests and a lot of different hobbies, so my regular Facebook page is not where I normally put a lot of pipe and scotch type stuff. I do some, but not a lot. So I thought, you know, I'm going to set up a Facebook page that's driven pretty much specifically to those things. And I invite you all to come and follow it, check it out, post stuff when you want. It doesn't matter to me, it's just there for fun. But Bearded Bristol on Facebook. Make sure you check out some of my other videos. I think I've got some that relate particularly to this. Like I said, there's a Media Madness video that I did months ago that actually wearing the same shirt, now that I think about it. How about that? That was not intended. But anyway, no matter who you are or where you are, I hope you're having a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.